Bro, we just walked to the store, bro. Y'all, bro, we out of y'all way, bro. Like, we going to the store and going back home. Y'all don't smell nothing on us. And then y'all stopping us talking about Demarius, bro. Don't nobody, bro. What?
Then talking about, don't grab me, fool. You gonna get
Stop walking away. You see there's a sign up
Uncle
here?
Mario, come around here.
Why you crying? What's your name?
What's these?
What the crosswind?
Crosswind. What's your name? You see there's a sign
Like,
up here?
dang.
Bro, I'm going home. Y'all, you bringing up all these different reasons for stopping the nigga, cuz this ain't...
Loiterers will be prosecuted.
Bro,
Did you see me throw
we
something?
going to the store and going home, bro.
I don't care what it is. Sir, leave me alone.
What's your name?
Uncle Mario, these folks.
Hey, you're going to have to identify yourself.
Yes,
That's
you
required
will.
by law. If you don't want to do that, we'll take you to jail. Do you understand?
And now he trying to take me to
I'm not
jail.
tell- I'm telling you the law.
Talk to him. Sir, I don't want to talk to
You
you.
have to identify yourself. He asked you.
I gotta identify myself and this and that. No, I don't. Not none at all. What crime?
What's your name?
Then they come up,
He said, nah,
they
look,
pull
he
up
said
on
we-
us,
he said
asking
we
for
smell
another
like-
person.
He said we smell like. What crime have I committed?
a crime to be identified. All you need is a reasonable
No, I
suspicion.
don't. Nigga, I'm
That's what
grown.
he just said.
What's your address?
Not yours.
Where's your address? Say you're walking home. You're in. Is this your address?
Am I being accused of a crime or something?
What's your name? Yes.
All we need is
Why?
reasonable
What
suspicion.
crime?
What's your name?
All we need is
What
reasonable
crime?
suspicion. We don't have to have
Reasonable suspicion going to the store, sir?
ordering.
Loitering.
Walk through property.
How?
Can I mean, my bad, Uncle Mario.
Now you
Why?
just got us
Oh,
involved.
hey, no. Hey, stop. Hey, look,
behind your
you
back.
chill, bro. What you got?
Bro, y'all see this, bro?
Bro, stop.
Like, they ain't got no reason to be doing this, bro. You're going, y'all see what we got going, bro. Then he finna tase him.
Okay.
Like, bro, what's up with all this? Then he hung up the phone. Bro. Like, bro,
I swear to God, bro.
all this.
I ain't never been tased before. I can't move, bro. Y'all just tased out me. Why is that? You recording it?
Yeah, I bought live.
Bro, why don't you go on live? I told you about this, bro. I can't stand up. Y'all just tased me. I can't do it. Y'all nigga pick me up. Y'all just tased me for no reason. I ain't gonna lie to on my son before he's finna go down, cuz pick me up.
All this for what?
All right, peace and blessings, all praises to the Most High. And there you see a young man being harassed, assaulted, tased, and basically kidnapped by some rogue Nazi police as he and his friend were simply walking to the store. And I shout out to Uncle Mario, who you heard talking with his nephew on the phone, for sending me this video. Now, I did not get the locale. I may come back later and give you the locale of this incident. But at the beginning of the video, you hear or see the police asking the young men, "Do you live here?" And, they answered them like, "Okay, why? We're just walking and going to the store." And the other man in the background said, "Okay, yeah, they just came up to us asking for a Demario or something like that." So they were evidently looking for somebody else, trying to identify these young men. Now, You see the young brother calling Uncle Mario. Uncle Mario, they out here tripping. We just going to the store. They asking me for ID. They coming up, to me asking questions. And they said that, they were loitering. And, the young man said, well, you ain't see me throw nothing down. So evidently he thought the officer meant littering. And when the officer said not littering, loitering. Young brother said, I don't care what it is, man. You ain't, you don't got no reason to talk to me. And he started walking away. And then you hear the other officer in the background said, you're going to have to ID yourself. You're going to have to ID yourself or we're going to take you to jail. Now, that is a point of contention, which I have seen in several videos. People are under the assertion that you don't have to ID yourself if you have not committed a crime. Now, that may be true, and I stand by that. But as you see on all of those videos, what the police say, well, if you don't ID yourself, we're going to take you to jail. And that's what, they eventually did. Even though he did not commit a crime, his refusal to identify himself, which is his right, led to this situation escalating. And I'm going to get into that. But, Uncle Mario was right on the phone when he told him, ask him, look, what kind of crime have I committed? I don't have to ID myself if I have not committed a crime. And then the police said, well, no, only thing we need is reasonable, articulable suspicion, which they can make up out of thin air. And it only took about a couple of more and it only took a couple of more back and forth between the young man and the officer until the officer said, okay, come on, let's get him. And that's immediately what they did. They jumped on the man. All three of them went with their rough housing punk-like tactics, ganging up on people. Those are punk, cowardly tactics. And then they got the young man on the ground. And when somebody's going to say he's resisting, yeah, like, why are you attacking me? I do not have to show my ID to you when I have not committed a crime. I'm simply walking through a neighborhood. And you see them begin to tase the young man. And that after the tasing, the young man was like, all right. And so then they pick him up and they start to take him to jail. But what was the crime that he committed? In all that interaction, besides talking junk to the police, once again, I've had my share of talking junk to the police when I have a right to. Besides that, what crime did he commit? Once again, under the guise of law, many people, and I'm not a law book. I've not studied this law, but I have not seen this law work in the favor of individuals who say, no, I don't have to identify myself. Anytime that they do that, they're always going to say, well, you're obstructing justice, you're failing to obey a lawful command, you're this, you're that, and you're going to jail. Not because it's law, but because it's I'm white and I say so. Not because you have a right not to be harassed, not to be identified if you're not in the commission of a crime. It's because I'm white and I say so. And you hear the young man talking about, yo, why did y'all tase me? Don't fight the police. Now, can anybody tell me in that situation where the young man was fighting the police? He was probably trying to withstand the attack that was levied upon by these three punk officers, and I wish I knew where they were in their names. But I was literally just talking about this situation and thinking about this situation when I was driving earlier today. And I've heard the late, great Neely Fuller say that. Anytime that we as Black people come in contact with the police, we have to consider ourselves prisoners of war. We have no rights. as we see at this point. Now, once again, shout out to the young brother and the uncle. I'm not saying he did anything wrong, but because of what we seen in these tactics, and I, I just spoke to somebody. You have to consider yourself a captive. You're at the mercy of these animals, these Neanderthals, these cowards, these punks with badges, these race soldiers, as someone put it. And so I said, well, yeah, when the police come and if I know ain't did nothing, they ain't got no right in this, I'm going to just give them my ID and go ahead and make the situation go smoothly. Like no talking junk, no, I know they're harassing me because I'm black and they want to be me or whatever the small ego problem they have. I'm going to just give them my ID and keep it moving. Now, once again, I'm not saying that this young man did anything wrong, but because of all of these interactions that I share on my channel, where people are asserting their rights and these small-minded, small ego, small everything else police officers, both men and women, take that as, okay, well, you're disobeying the lawful order, or you have to do what I say. These are the type that was bullied in high school, or, their women don't listen to them at home, or, they can't get a woman. So they have to demean and dehumanize and degrade everyday people for just simply walking through the neighborhood. And so I use this as a, once again, point of advice that even though we have rights, you can clearly say that these beasts, these two-legged beasts, as Malcolm X called them, are constantly violating our rights. So the best thing to do, once again, in my opinion, this ain't law, but because of what I've seen, now, if I was a younger man at 20 and, whatever the case may be, I didn't have anything going for myself. Yeah, I talk junk and I'll make their job harder. But, I done did all of that. Like I said, I've did that. I've had no reason to stop. Yo, what you stopping me for, man? You a coward, man. You ain't got nothing better to do. And what did that do? Get out the car. No, I ain't getting out the car. Get out the car. Get out. No, I ain't get out the car. You make me get out the car. And then we end up tussling. Back in the days, you know what I'm saying? Trust me, I got a couple of assault on law enforcement charges. And that's just the way it is. But now, all right, man. Go ahead, man. There you go. That's my idea. All right, you done? All right. All right, man. Find you something better to do. Then I walk off. I'm going to talk junk after I walk off. But seeing all of the things that I've seen within this past year of these animalistic, ferocious dogs with badges. Yeah, man. Okay, well, yeah, I'm at your mercy. What you want me to do? Here, you want my ID? Yeah, now you can't search though. Yeah, I don't consent to it. All of those things. Yeah, but something simple as an ID. Yeah, go ahead, man. Run. Run. Yeah. All right, man. Can I go on my way? All right, man. Coward. And then something like that. And then right now I don't even do that because I don't I'm witnessing these people violate people's rights every day. But shout out to the young brother, for speaking his mind. Like I said, that's me 20 years ago. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying nothing is wrong with it, but I'm saying we got to handle the situation smarter when we know that we are public enemy number one as black men. We are the number one threat to society because of our blackness, because of our prowess, because of our originality. We are the original man. And so when you see things like this, shout out to my brother. I don't know, hopefully, my brother Mario will reach back out to me after I do the video and, give me some clarity, man. Shout out to the young brother. I hope you're doing all right, man. Feel free to call me. You see my number. But, man, these guys are cowards and they hide behind those badges. And, it always takes three or four, but most of them, they couldn't hold a candle to that young man in a one-on-one scuffle. So, we have to realize what type of coward individuals, that we are dealing with, and act accordingly. Be wise as serpents and gentle as doves, as the scripture says. But shout out to my brother, man. Shout out to Uncle Mario for being there. And, shout out to the young brother who recorded it, man. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. Once again, 919-587-7782. Peace and blessings.